See, I thought, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. And we are different with regard to romance. Women want romance performed more sensually. Am I correct? More slowly. Women take longer to percolate. Whereas men are more microwave-ish in their primitive instinct. And therefore, we differ with regard to foreplay. Women want it. Okay. Women want to devote as much time to foreplay as most men would to an entire relationship. We don't know why you need so much time. I mean, we go to ball games, we don't say more Star Spangled Banner, more National Anthem. Let's get right to the festivities. And we differ with regard to afterplay. Women take longer to cool down, to decompress. Therefore, when all has been said and done, women want comforting. Am I correct, ladies? Women want caressing. Men want sleep. 8 hours, no interruptions. Business has been completed. Motion to adjourn. We are very different. And I, of course, have reached unmistakable middle age. I mean, your life really changes. I just had my annual physical, as a result of which my doctor told me to elevate the fiber content in my diet, and specifically suggested I begin eating this new cereal called Fiber One. Now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this rather powerful piece of breakfast fare, the Grim Reaper of morning chow, this nuclear laxative in a box. But this stuff is unbelievably fiber-rich. It has 6 times more fiber than grape nuts, and 3 times more fiber than raw twine, to give you an idea. This stuff is unbelievable. You know, it's one thing to be regular, but another to be unstoppable. It's not as though I have nothing to do with my day. There should be a Surgeon General's warning on the box. Don't eat unless retired. There's no way to remain a productive citizen of society. And there should be a picture of Tony the Tiger squatting. This stuff can render you volcanically active, and taken with prune juice can prove fatal. Fiber One. They ought to call it Fiber Two because that's the number you're going to be obsessed with. And it was during this Fiber One physical that I had what might have been the most single painful memory in my conscious adulthood. When my doctor inflicted on me a procedure known as a rigid sigmoid oscopy. Now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this former Nazi torture technique, but I had never heard of this. I couldn't believe they would let a human being do this to another person without a formal declaration of war. My wife sets me up with this doctor, who, when I say gave me a complete physical, this was really beyond complete, ladies and gentlemen. This was medical overkill. He tested me for things I did not need testing for. A yeast infection. What are the chances I'm going to sprout muffins at any point during this exam? What are the chances I'm going to break out in cookies? The man is looking for yeast. He tested me for things I did not need testing for. Sickle cell anemia. I'm a white Jew from New York. I don't need this test. I'll take my chances, Doc. I live life on the edge. And then the rigid sigmoid. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this procedure, it followed the hernia examination. The hernia exam was just a warm-up for this doctor. And I have had dozens of hernia exams, and occasionally they are moderately enjoyable. But I'll tell you, I had never had a hernia exam quite as extensive as this one. This doctor was diddling and daddling down there for what I thought an undue amount of time. To me, if there's a hernia there, he should be able to find it within 15 minutes. It's not that challenging. It's there, or it's not playing peekaboo, but he's diddling and daddling. This wasn't an exam. This was a courtship, a romance. My wife should be as attentive as this doctor was, diddling and daddling. Now, at the conclusion of this hernia search, the only thing missing was Leonard Nimoy. The doctor leaves the room, leaving me alone with his nurse. Nurse Ratchet. I don't know if you're familiar with this Nazi co-conspirator, who, in preparing me for this sigmoid, asked me to drop my trousers and hop up onto a table that they had prepared. This made me understandably uncomfortable, so I made a little joke. I said, "You first, babe." Thinking maybe a little humor might break the ice. But this was not a woman of remarkable wit, ladies and gentlemen. So in complying with her request, I dropped my trousers, thereby unleashing Moby. I beg your indulgence. 43 years old, I'm still doing Moby jokes. And I assumed the classic horsey position. And I waited in this rather vulnerable posture for quite some time, me naked from the waist down alongside this nurse. It was awkward. At one point, I asked her to put her ear there and tell me if she could hear the ocean. We had come to a lull in the conversation. And there's not a lot you're going to want to talk about. You're not going to talk about weather. I predict a hurricane with high winds. Run for cover! Pull my finger! You know, we're waiting until the doctor finally makes an appearance, ostensibly to perform this procedure, carrying a rather impressive piece of medical apparatus, ladies and gentlemen, that looked remarkably like a Louisville Slugger. I asked him what was he carrying in both hands, I might add. He said it was a sigmoidoscope, a camera, that despite its remarkable dimensions, he was going to somehow insert, not insert, ram into me for the purpose of taking pictures of my colon. Ladies and gentlemen, I am 43 years old. Never has anyone requested pictures of my colon. I asked him if he wanted wallet size or an 8x10 glossy. It occurred to me that inserting something so large through an opening so diminutive might create severe discomfort. So I asked him if this was going to hurt. To which he said, and I quote, he said, "You might experience a slight cramp," he says, which is somewhat akin to telling somebody in the path of a tidal wave, "You might experience moisture." A slight cramp. Knowing full well the incredible pain he was about to inflict, he should have said, "You're gonna wish you were dead, boy. You're gonna wish you were never born." And at this point in the proceedings, with no foreplay, none, with no warning whatsoever, he launches this torpedo, so that within seconds it was hidden. The cramp, considerably more than slight, I might add, was in my neck. And as he began snapping picture upon picture, I started screaming like I didn't think humanly possible, to which Nurse Ratchet had the nerve to say, "You're scaring our other patients." I've got the Chrysler building in me. She's worried about other patients. I said, they should be scared. They should know about this. In fact, run, Jews, run! Thank you, Chicago.